Hi there, my name is Danny. I'm the owner of Amber & Oak. If you're coming back to my channel as a subscriber or a previous viewer, thank you so much for stopping by. And if you're new, welcome. I make videos that are showing the behind the scenes of a candle business. I love to share the true reality behind the scenes, the highs, the lows, and tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. In today's video, I have a make a few candles with me idea because a few of you have asked me to show you how to make a candle on camera. And I will be honest with you, the studio is not in tip-top shape. And I was telling myself, kind of putting it off a little bit, like I'm gonna wait till after the crazy holiday rush. I'm gonna clean the studio. Everything's going to be perfect. This is gonna be a nice, like highly produced video, how to make a soy candle, and everything's going to be perfect. There's not gonna be wax anywhere. I have like fragile labels that are just falling off of the pegboard, and everything that you can see in the background is just the reality of the busiest time of the year for a candle business. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, why go out of my way to stop everything or put it off so you guys have to wait longer, or stop my production to make everything appear perfect when the reality is like there's always wax everywhere. If you're gonna have a candle business, you're gonna be cleaning all the time, or maybe not all the time if you don't want to clean that much. It's totally up to you, but I am just going to get some of these candles out of the way, and I'm going to make a batch of candles with you because I need to make candles. I can't stop production right now. I am building up my stock for my holiday launch, and it is crazy. I'm going really big, and it's very scary, to be honest. It's the biggest or the most candles I've ever made for a launch ever. I'm at the home stretch. I just have to pour a few more double wicks, but I figured I would use this opportunity to also show you how to make a candle and share some information with you about candle making. Just a few little updates. I said in my previous video, I've been using a bun rack, bakery rack. This has helped so tremendously with getting, just having more space, more surface area available to produce more. So if you're a growing candle business or you have a very small space, you're working in a very small room, I highly recommend getting a bakery rack because you're storing upwards. Oh, one more thing I also wanted to share with the candle making community, because I feel like it's a great safety tool, as some of us are multitasking as we're making our candles. And say if you're a person who's using a larger wax melter, if you're making more candles and you're getting larger melters like digiboils, like 2 auto melters, and just larger capacity melters from any manufacturer, anything could happen really with fire hazards. It's a heat source and you're heating up wax. And if by some chance maybe the wax doesn't totally melt and it's hardened on top and the wax on the bottom is melted, then you could burn that wax underneath. So you always want to be checking on your melters, just a little safety tip, peeking in there, seeing how it's going. Something came to my mind. I was like, why don't I just use kind of like a baby monitor? So if I have to run upstairs, because it will take a while for the digiboil to melt a lot of wax down, then I can just check on it and make sure everything's good in the basement. But let me show you. So I have this $14 or $15 camera from Amazon. I'll link it in the description box down below. I wanted to share this with you. I put this on this table right here and I point it towards my melters. I can point it up so I can actually see the whole melter from the top to bottom, and I can see the temperature of the melter, and I can keep an eye on that. Like I could just open an app on my phone and see what's going on down here when I am not physically down here. And then it frees up some time. Say if you're maybe working in 2 different rooms, say you're pouring your candles in one room and you're packing orders in another room, and you're going back and forth and you're checking that temperature on the digiboil, this will like help you a lot. So yeah, I figured I would share that. I'm gonna clear off these tables right here, and then we're gonna get into making a few candles. I am going to be using the Soy Light Wax Master Melter. One thing I want to say about this melter is it does heat up very quickly and it can easily overheat. So you really have to keep an eye on it. And on the dial, I actually turn it way lower than the temperature that I would like to heat it to, which is around 185 for my soy wax. So just a little caution if you grab this specific melter. It runs a little hot in my opinion, and you never want to have just a tiny bit of wax in it. You want to make sure you have a decent amount of wax in this melter or any melter so you don't boil it dry, and that could be a fire hazard. So the wax that I use and have used since 2020 when I started my candle business is Soy 415. Now this is a pure soy wax. There are no additives in it. It is just soy in the pure state of wax form. So I will say there are some positives and negatives about this wax. Everyone has their own preferences and you will find the wax that suits you the best. Now there are easier waxes to work with as a beginner. I will say this can be a little challenging. You will experience some frosting, some sinkholes for sure with this wax. And I've kind of developed my own way to work with it. And it just works for me and my business with my formula. And I'm very, very comfortable with it. But this is by no means a suggestion to the wax that you should start with. It's just me sharing behind the scenes of what I'm using. Similar waxes that you could start with or you can try out are the Soy 464 wax. Now that is similar. It's by the same Golden Wax brand, and it also has a little bit of an additive in it that helps with the frosting. It helps with a couple different things when making the wax, so it might be slightly easier to start with that wax than 415, but do whatever you feel like doing. There's also Soy 444 that I know a lot of candle makers really, really love. So it really just depends on your preference. There's coconut soy wax blends. There's so many different beautiful types of waxes. I've tested and tried a few different ones by now, but I've stuck with this for now. It's at a good price point. For me, it's very important for availability where I am buying 5 cases at a time and I need to be able to get the right price point, one, but also know it's in stock for big launches, holiday season, even just during the year. Some of the newer waxes that are coming out are beautiful, but they aren't as much of a readily available wax in my state. So my suggestion to you would be to check, I guess also like if there's any wax supplier that's near you that you can pick up from, because I pay hundreds of dollars in shipping for the weight of these boxes of wax. They're 45-pound boxes and I, like I said, buy 5 at a time. So I would definitely check to see if there was anywhere you can pick up wax from first rather than ship, and then decide and test based on those waxes, because that will really help get your cost of goods down in the back end. I don't know if you heard my glove just squeak. I like to also wear gloves because I get my hands like full of wax all the time, and even though it is totally natural of a wax, I just am washing my hands a lot so I don't get it all over the jars and then my hands dry out. So I'm kind of just protecting my super dry hands. I'm actually down to the bottom of my last box of wax right now. Somehow you're on. Why are you on? Let's get a bunch of this in. Now, if you're making a batch of candles, what I usually do is I measure out the exact amount of wax I'm going to need to fill all of the candles. But for this, I'm just going to fill the melter up to a certain amount, and I'm going to hope for the best because I do need to pour three more double wick candles, and I think I want to top off one 7-ounce. So just making sure there's a decent amount of wax in there. I have my thermometer ready to check the temperature inside because I want to make sure the temperature of the wax in the melter is the same as what the dial is telling me. I prefer the DigiBoil's digital display of the temperature. I just feel like that's a little more accurate than some of these melters with the dials on them. But even with the DigiBoil, it can read 10 degrees up or low. So you definitely want to always check with a thermometer. But you do have to get used to how it reads temperature. Sometimes it can read a little hot or low. So there's just like small differences. You can compare with a candy thermometer and the thermal one that I was just using. I did that in the beginning. I would compare and see how off they were and just kind of know as I'm making candles, like this is going to read a little bit hotter than what the wax actually is, etc., etc. Why can't they all read accurate? I don't know. It's hard out there. So that's just like my personal advice for that. So let's get a tray down here. I am making some double wick candles. These are the Snowy Evening scent. That is the last of all 6 scents that I've been making for my holiday collection. I do also need to top off a 7-ounce that's poured a little bit short. So I'm going to calculate how many ounces of wax I need in a pitcher to fill all 4 of these candles that I need made. And that comes to 35.4 ounces of wax that I will need to fill these. Let's do 35.5 to be safe to have an extra ounce for this guy, even though I don't even know if it's an ounce that I will need. So now I'm going to calculate the fragrance oil percentage for my wax. Now you can do from around 6% to 10% to some of the paraffin waxes. You can even go higher than 10% fragrance oil load. Now I will do a sit down video if you'd like more information on this. I feel like I'm doing kind of a bit of a disservice by not sitting down and talking a little bit more in depth about fragrance oil load percentage, but I want to keep this video casual, quick, easy, kind of behind the scenes style, just because I have a lot to do and I wanted to give you something. But fragrance oil load, you want to follow your manufacturer's instructions. So whoever manufactured your wax, the supplier that you purchased your wax from, should have directions on the listing on their website for the wax, or you can call them and ask the max fragrance oil load percentage. You do not want to go over that. There are some things that I feel we can be lax about in candle making, even though candle making is such a science and it is very much a product of your environment, your temperatures, your methods, and everyone's methods are different, and what works for me may not work for you. But this is one thing that I will say that I would never suggest to go against, is putting more fragrance oil into the candle than is suggested by the manufacturer. It just physically cannot hold that amount of fragrance oil. It will start seeping. It can be dangerous. It can be a fire hazard. It's just giving it way too much fuel. Now, somewhere around the 6 to 10% range is usual for soy wax, but every wax is different. So just check that, calculate your percentage, and pour your fragrance oil to that exact number or around that number. Just don't go over the max fragrance oil load. It's scary. Don't do it. I'm going to pour some of my fragrance. This is a custom blend that I created with 2 different Candle Science oils. Check on that wax. All right, it's starting to melt. What I'm using is just a silicone beaker. These are great because I'm clumsy and I can drop glass and break it. But there are many different things you can use to pour these in. All right, just gonna wait for my wax to melt down. I have my fragrance oil measured out, ready to pour into the pitcher once the temperature is ready. Every wax has their own way and own temperature to pour at. Also, you can find some suggested fragrance oil adding temperatures on the manufacturer's website, on the supplier's website. They will say add fragrance oil in at 180, add fragrance oil in at 185, 200, whatever it may be. Some waxes need it higher, some waxes can tolerate it at a lower temperature. I add my fragrance oil in right around 180, 175, and I mix for 2 to 3 minutes. The 3 minutes is kind of an extra safety. 2.5 minutes is usually the suggested amount, at least for the soy wax. So I'm going to add that in once this comes to temperature. Let's check on it. Sometimes you need to give it a little stir. These are what I'm going to use to center the wicks for the double wick candles. These are just bag clips, like chip bag clips from Amazon, and they snap really nicely into place and they fit the diameter of the jars that I'm using. So when you're looking for wick centering tools, you can look for ones that candle suppliers sell. Those are great. I've just found that I actually prefer, I guess, just clothespins for the 9-ounce straight-sided jars. Just work the best for me. I don't know where I got this from. I think I actually had a random bag clip sitting around that was genuinely from a bag of chips. It was like a blue one, and I just like was at the last jar and I was like, ooh, this, and I was like, this is perfect. It's what I'm going to use from now on. So I love these. I love the clothespins. The clothespins give like a nice natural wood look when you're taking like behind the scenes pictures. So that's what I'll be using. Okay, so we can turn this off. We're at temperature. Like I said, the soy light melter does heat up fast and it does heat up hot. So you just have to make sure you're not going to burn your wax, and take it off of the heat. Turn the heat off when you need. Let me grab my scale. So we're going to do 35.5 ounces. I'm going to tear out my scale. I'm going to press the T button. Like I said, this is a super casual video. I will show like close-ups maybe in another video where I have time to take more B-roll shots. But I'm at 14. Now you can elevate your pictures, so you can put a cinder block, you can put a block of wood, whatever you think may work for you so that you don't have to keep holding it. I just don't use this guy as frequently, so I don't have anything set up for him to just sit down as the wax just pours out of it. But for my digiboils, I do have them on crates, so I'm able to just put the pitcher underneath and walk away for a few seconds. I got 35.6. So my pitcher is decently clean. There's no fragrance in there. I would not recommend pouring fragrance oil ever directly into any melter because it's going to be really hard to get that scent out of there. But since this is a pitcher that just has wax in it, I will pour it in if I'm slightly over, as I'm trying to get the exact number that I need. It could be hard to, I feel like I get better with it and with time, but right now I'm really, 35.5. Okay, we got it. Then I have, they're so filled with wax to be honest, but I have these little silicone pads that I can put this down on to protect my surface a little bit. Not that I really need to. The laser light's not working. Here we go. No, where are you? There you go. All right. We need to wait for that to cool a little bit before adding our oil. But I also use these silicone spatulas to mix my fragrance oil in with. I used to use the wooden skewers because you can buy a big pack of them and you can kind of discard. After I used to reuse and wipe down and clean, but it does absorb the scent. So buying a big pack I could discard, but I realized that this would be a little bit more eco-friendly to just reuse and clean. So I love using these spatulas to stir in my fragrance oil in because it has a nice bigger paddle, or I feel like I can get a good stir compared to just a stick. So this is what I'm using for stirring my fragrance oil in at. I think it's in my description box. If not, I'll try to add it to this video so you can check these out as well. I liked the black just because it matched and was neutral, but there's obviously a bunch of different colors that you can grab that would make you happy or match your aesthetic. Let's see where we're at with this. Woo! See, this wax gets so hot. This melta. So we're at 180. I'm going to pour my fragrance oil in now. I'm going to stir for 2-ish, 3 minutes. Non-stop, a nice slow stir. You don't want to create too many air bubbles, air pockets. Just an even, consistent stir. I always make sure to set a timer or at least just check the time and make note of the exact amount of minutes that I've been stirring for to ensure that I've stirred for the full 2 to 3 minutes of required time to make sure that fragrance oil is fully incorporated into the wax. Now, the reason that I would not suggest putting your fragrance oil in at a very low temperature would be because sometimes it can prevent it from binding to the wax and you'll have issues with that. Maybe fragrance oil seepage, maybe no good hot throw or cold throw. It just can need a hotter temperature to bind together depending on the type of wax you're using. But with my wax, I found that I can add at a little bit of a lower temperature if I needed to, but I typically add at 180 and I actually pour very low. And this may be kind of weird to you, but I actually pour at a very low temperature, around 100 degrees, when the wax is almost solidified. And that has helped me with the temperature of my room and the temperature of the jars to get the smoothest tops that I possibly can with this wax, because it is really a wax that is known for horrendous tops, but I found ways to work with it, so that's what I do. This is not advice to you. It is actually more ideal, I think, for time and production to be able to pour right away and then move on to fill that pitcher again and make more candles, but this is what I'm doing right now, and it gives me a smoother top. So I'm gonna wait a little bit for this wax to cool, and then I'll pour. Alrighty, we're gonna pour these in at a nice slow pace. Now, the dripping is something that I'm constantly fighting with, which I just unfortunately have to use a paper towel. So I pour, and then as I'm getting up to the spot that I'm going to stop at, I pull up and wipe, because every single time there will be a drip of wax. And that's how things get really messy around here. I try my best. I know people have different methods. Sometimes I'll use the pancake batter dispenser, and you can really pinpoint exactly where you want to pour it with that thing. So that's great. I'm just going to use the pitcher right now. So I've got it all up to the level. I actually have a little bit extra I can top off one of my other candles with that may look a little low. Let's see if there's one over here. There you have it. I was able to pour 3 more and finish my holiday pours with you on camera today, while also hopefully helping you learn a little bit more about making candles, at least soy candles. Thank you so much. Please remember that every environment is different. All your processes may differ from mine. So this is just how I make my candles. Please do all of your research into learning how to make candles, depending on the wax that you're using and the fragrance oils that you're using. But I hope to make more educational sit-down videos when I have more time outside of the holiday season for you, that'll hopefully help you learn a little bit more about the science of making candles. So if you've joined me today and you've watched this whole video through, I will thank you so much for spending the time with me, for supporting my channel. It means the world to me. I love this community, and I will hopefully see you very, very soon in another one of my videos. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye.